I am Princess X, part 2 of chapter 3. Finally, 2 whole days after discovering the sticker on Broadway, she finally caught a break. She was sitting in Volunteer Park at the edge of the pond, next to a fake great blue heron, a statue that hypothetically scared away the real ones so they wouldn't eat the koi. She had opened her notebook and turned to the notes for her novel in progress, but she couldn't concentrate enough to do much more than doodle in the margins. There was too much else going on in her mind, and really all she wanted to do was sit down and write some Princess X stories. It had taken a while to learn how to write it by herself. Without someone to sketch out the pictures she described, it was a lot harder to tell stories without a friend and with just the words to work with because May never could draw for crap, and she never did get much better than crap. But once she figured out a few things, writing came easy. Ideas had always been her strong suit, and now it was just a matter of getting them down on paper. She looked up at the enormous brick water tower behind her and tried to see it as something other than a turret in Princess X's haunted house. It was part of a castle instead, or a prison, or the worst of the worst were locked up for life. And then a guy with a skateboard came shooting toward her so fast that she had to jerk her feet out of the way. And with a rattling clatter of asphalt-chewed wheels, he passed her by and continued up to the overlook, where a big round sculpture called the Black Sun framed the Space Needle on a clear day. She scowled after him, but then fading into the distance on the back of his bag, she saw a familiar logo. It bobbed and bounced as he kicked up the board, and vanished as he set the bag aside. He dropped himself onto the edge of the sculpture's big platform, pulled out a pack of cigarettes, and sparked one up. Before May even knew what she was doing, she picked up her own bag, a beat-up canvas messenger with an octopus on it, and slung it across her chest. She strolled toward the skater, but she'd gotten so good at being invisible that he didn't see her until she was standing right in front of him, blocking his view of the reservoir. He looked up at her and down without any menace or even appraisal. She thought maybe he was trying to make her step aside using the power of his brain. She didn't move. She just said, "Hey." "Hey," he said right back at her without blinking. He was about her own age, give or take a couple of years in either direction, with scraped up elbows and holes in the knees of his jeans. "Can I ask you something?" "Go for it." She nudged his bag with her shoe. "That sticker," she said. But when he turned the bag round, she realized she had been mistaken. "That patch, I mean. Where did you get it?" He jabbed it with his finger. "This one? My girlfriend got it for me." "Okay, then where did she get it?" He shrugged. "The website, I guess. You can get stickers, patches, that kind of stuff. Why, are you a fan?" She swallowed hard. "Of the website?" "Okay, I guess not. You got a pen?" She dug out one of her bag and handed it to him. He grabbed her hand and turned it over so her palm faced up, and across it he scrawled, www.imprincessx.com. She read the URL over and over again, choking on it. "Thanks," she managed to say as she stepped away from him and started back down the hill. It wasn't just her wacky imagination. Not somebody's cute cartoon with a coincidental resemblance. Not a bad case of nostalgia showing her what she wanted to see. It was Princess X. Her Princess X. Libby's Princess X. It was on the internet, and that meant it was real. May shook her phone as though she could intimidate more battery life into it. And of course she couldn't, but she was only a few blocks from her dad's apartment, so she ran all the way there. She sweated through her t-shirt and sweater, which was a very attractive look, she was sure. But she made it home, let herself inside, and then slammed the door shut and dashed for her bedroom. She grabbed her laptop and dragged it into the living room where the wireless connection was strongest and waited what felt like forever for the machine to boot up. "Dad!" she called out. It had only just occurred to her that he might be home, but he didn't answer, and that meant he wasn't working from the back room today. Good. She wanted some privacy. Her browser popped up, and she plugged in the URL that she had already knew by heart. She wormed herself out of the damp sweater and threw it on the floor, and then grabbed a throw from the back of the couch and wrapped it around her shoulders like a shawl. IamPrincessX.com. There it was. May took a deep breath and let it out again, measured and slow. The website was mostly done in black and gray with pink and red accents, achieving a surprisingly dark look for a story about a blue-haired princess in a puffy dress. May dragged the cursor around. It wasn't an ordinary arrow, but a tiny purple sword. She loved it, and examined the page pixel by pixel. Beneath the banner was a large shot of the princess with her sword, flanked by the ghost of a woman on one side and a slender brown-haired man on the other. The woman was sad and ethereal, trailing ectoplasm in tears, with seaweed in her hair and blood pouring down the front of her dress. The man was small-eyed and angry, with 2 long knobby limbs and grasping fingers that had too many knuckles. And the princess herself, she was no simple cartoon anymore, but a full-fledged character. She had wild black hair with electric blue streaks, and her mouth was set in a determined line. She looked very much like May imagined Libby might, had she lived to see high school. Tough and pretty, slim and tall, ready to kick some butt. At first, May thought the page was static, but when she noodled with the cursor, drawing it over here, over there, she discovered Easter eggs hidden on the images. The ghost body, chest wound, revealed hover text that read she drove for as long as she could. In the same way, the man's right hand declared pins and needles, palms and knives. And the princess's katana sword, urged May, find the 4 keys. And at the bottom of the page, a long thread of water flowed. It must be some kind of animated gift, she assumed. But when she hovered the cursor over it, it made little splashes, and a warm gold highlight told her that this was a link, and she double-clicked it. The Ghost Queen. Mother and avenging spirit, the Ghost Queen was flung into the ocean, but did not drown. Her life and her child were taken away. She will not fade or forget. Advisor and protector, friend and oracle, her wisdom and magic hide the princess from the Needleman. Princess X. The princess fell into the water twice. The first time, the Needleman lifted her out of the waves and carried her home. He wished to build a new child out of her blood and bones, but she fled before he could reshape her. She ran, guarded by her mother's spirit, and now they walked together through an unnamed land, seeking safety, freedom, and justice. The Needleman, a sad king from a foreign land. His daughter was lost, and he was alone, so he captured Princess X and brought her to live in his castle. But the princess refused to love him, and she escaped one night in a storm. Now the Needleman hunts the princess night and day. He must find her and kill her before she learns the secret of the 4 keys. The 4 keys. They are a series of magical objects shrouded in mystery and hidden by ancient wizards. When combined, these 4 keys form a powerful spell that will vanquish the Needleman, freeing the princess and her mother forever. The sword cursor followed May's train of thought, roaming across the pictures in the next. Except for Princess X herself, none of this was right. These were not May's stories. This was not anything she and Libby had negotiated under the covers after bedtime. Flashlights and markers scattered across the sheets. There was no mention of the city of Silverdale or the haunted house high up on the hill, where the princess watched out over the city, fighting any and all crimes she spied below, except the Ghost Queen bore a crazy resemblance to Mrs. Deaton. Even if May could overlook Princess X's similarity to Libby, and she couldn't, the Ghost Queen was no case of coincidence. No way. She was even flung into the ocean just like the real one, sort of. But who was this Needleman? She pushed the cursor over to his profile, hunting a link to tell her more, but nothing highlighted, illuminated, or otherwise suggested there was further content to be found. And then she tried the 4 keys, which were illustrated by 4 long old-fashioned keys tied together with a red ribbon. She discovered a link buried in the ribbon's bow, and she clicked it to see where it would take her. What did you find in the fire, Princess X? I found a gold mask with secrets in its eyes. What did you find in the sky, Princess X? I found a red box made of lightning and glass. What did you find in the ground, Princess X? I found a black mirror that sang about the sun. And what did you find in the water, Princess X? I found a boat full of bones and a dead gray girl. May clapped her hand over her mouth to keep her from screaming.